Hello and welcome to another inspiring episode. Today we'll be talking about something that I would say all youths need it. Yes, we need it. It reminds me about when I graduated from school and I thought I had the capacity, I thought I had the skills because I have my certificate. So, of course, I should be eligible to get jobs at, high places, top-notch multinationals. But I tell you that it was totally a different ball game. And we'll be talking about how to build sustainable capacity in your career as a youth. Yes. So with me today, I won't be doing the talking alone. I've brought someone who is fit to talk about this topic on today's episode. With joy in my heart, I'd like to announce our guest for today, Dr. Abraham Owoseni. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on today's episode.
Thank you so much, Nike. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't take it for granted, and I want to appreciate you and your team and all of the great work you've been doing on the True Voice podcast. Thank you for having me here, Nike.
We'd just like to go straight into today's topic, how to build sustainable. I intentionally used that word sustainable, in the topic, sustainable capacity, in our chosen fields, our careers and professions as youths. And thank God, you're youth mentor. You've been mentoring a lot of people, young people, over the years. So let us start with what exactly is building capacity? What exactly is, or capacity building? What exactly is it when it comes to our career?
Okay, so thank you so much for that. When I was actually preparing for this podcast, one of the things I did was to really break it down in so much of an easy way that just anybody can understand, right? So yeah, capacity building basically is an intentional effort to learn and to grow, right? That's what capacity building is, right? So you find that in various careers and in various professional fields, every now and then, even organizations have a particular budget for capacity building, right? Some call it continuous professional development. It's an intentional effort to make sure that everyone is growing, right? And everyone is just increasing in value, right? Because you can't give what you don't have. And so, capacity building is that intentional quest as a young person or as a professional or just as anybody to constantly grow and invest in knowledge and every requisite skill, ability required to perform better, whatever we're doing. I think that's the nutshell about capacity building, really.
Yeah. All right, sir. So why is it important? Why is it necessary to build capacity? Why do we need it?
Okay, so I think maybe this is what we're going to do. Let's drive it from the end so that we can actually see the reason why we need to build capacity. And so the reason, the main picture for young people is that everyone wants to be successful, right? Everyone wants to be successful. And
True. Yes, sir.
The word success is one of the most used word, but perhaps less understood word. Another similar word to that is love. People talk about love, and so I missed many definitions of success. One of my simplest definitions of success is that success is the progressive realization of one's God-given purpose. Right? I mean, that's the simplest definition of success that I'm sharing. That success is not even about materialism. I mean, yes, it's great to have good clothing, it's great to have shelter, it's great to have food on your table. But if you notice, they call those things basic needs. They call them basic needs because virtually everybody can have it. And even if someone does not have it, soon the person will have it. So you talk about food, you talk about clothing, you talk about shelter. That's basic need. if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of need, for example, the apex of his triangle is not the basic need. And so success in itself is not about the material things, the big house, luxurious mansion, and all of those stuff. Those are basic needs. They should be there by default. We're talking about the realizing and actualizing your God-given purpose. That is success, right? And that is the reason why one needs capacity building. So imagine this: what God expects from us is that God expects us to really have good success, right? So you see a scripture like Joshua 1 verse 8, it says, make your way prosperous and you will have good success, right? So the good success that that God was talking about is not about the material wealth, although we will have them, because when we seek Him, all of those other things will follow after us. The true success and the good success that God is talking about is that we truly fulfill the reason why He sent us here. That's when God will really say, that's when God will say, oh, you're a good and faithful servant. That's when God will say that. And so people use the word, saying, oh, success. So for example, someone was on a trip, traveling by road, and when he arrived at his destination, perhaps someone gets to ask him and say, how was the trip, right? And perhaps the person could also say it was successful. But when you look at it closely, why did the person say the trip was successful? The person said the trip was successful because the person got to his destination. Think about it. If the person never got to the destination, or if the person had some bit of traffic or barriers on the way, the person will say, oh wow, it was really there were lots of issues on the road, but thank God we're here. Or the person gives a call on the way and say, well, I'm held up here, I should be within the next 3 hours or 2 hours, as the case may be. So success, really, look at it, success is typically arriving at a destination, so to say. Right? And so amongst, now when you look at that trip, I want us to look at this quickly. When you look at that person, the person got to his destination traveling, and it was a successful trip. Amongst many other things that made that trip successful, the fuel in the vehicle was instrumental in the journey for the person to arrive, right? And so imagine the person is traveling from one city to another. At some point, the person may need to top up, right? Else the car will get grounded. And so this is how it is in life. Capacity is like the fuel we need that keeps us running. Capacity is like that fuel that keeps us running until we arrive at our destination, right? And so life is a journey. That's why I want us to see from the end in mind. When we see it from the end in mind, the reason becomes so strong and compelling. Life is a journey, and everyone is ideally meant to be moving towards a God-given destination. Right, so you see a scripture like Ephesians chapter 2 verse 10. So it says we have become His poetry. It says God recreated us so that we can fulfill the destiny He has given each of us. Right, and so every one of us has a God-given destiny. And so when you look at it, really, the context of destiny really tells us that we have a destination. Right, I mean, destination is drawn from the root word destiny. Right, so every one of us has a God-given destiny, and that's the same way we also have a destiny. So a similar scripture that comes to mind is also Romans 8 verse 30. God has predetermined our destiny ahead of time, and so He called us to Himself. Right, so you look at someone like Paul in scripture. Paul said, I have fought the good fight, I have completed the race, I have kept the faith. And so what comes to my mind is that for Paul to categorically say he has fought the good fight, he has completed the race, that means he started the race at first. He must have started before he could have finished. You don't finish what you don't start.
Of course.
Also, I could imagine that he had enough fuel to keep him running on his journey. Right? And so capacity is that fuel we need to keep us running. And so everyone is in a race. Hebrews 12 verse 1. seeing that we are compassed with all of this great cloud of witness. You look at the end of that verse. It says, let us run with patience the race that is set before us. So everybody's literally in a race. You may not be in front of a track, but you are running a race. Once a person arrives on the surface of the earth, arrival on the earth is your lane. Once you arrive on the earth, you are on the race. And so we admonish that, hey, as we run in this race, and every endeavor you get to do along this race, you need one thing, which is capacity. That is the fuel that will keep you going on the journey. So that is the main reason why we all need, to build capacity, because we need that, that momentum to keep going, so we can arrive at our destination. The destination is the God-given destiny each of us has. Some people have they call it an assignment. It is also, you can also be calling it a purpose. The destination is the purpose to which why we are here on earth. And so the true success, the good success God is talking about, is not the material wealth. It's that we fulfill the original reason He sent us here. This is amazing, right?
Wow. I totally love the way you broke it down. Sincerely. I really do. So, quickly, sir.
Yeah.
So, how do we build sustainable capacity in our career as young people? How? Because looking at a lot of things that are happening, and it looks as if fit into leadership, into governance, into some certain jobs in our pursuit and growth in our careers. So how do we build sustainable capacity in our chosen fields as youth that want to be successful?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, what I'm even going to do is that I'm going to just even share this beyond even careers. Yes, I've done a lot of work on careers and career development, but I'm just going to even make this applicable in all sphere. Now, so this is the picture. Capacity is not something you wear, or it's not how you look.
At all.
Capacity is capacity is what is inside. And so, for example, you look at the generating set, and then they say this generating set has about 1.2 kVA capacity. It means it can carry as much as that load on it. You see another one, they say it has XYZ capacity. And so capacity is not the look we have, or whether we are fair, or our complexity is fat, or our height short or tall, slim or dark, fair. It's not all about that. Capacity is what is inside. And so God did something amazing that we are forever grateful to. He gave every one of us gifts. And so He didn't just send us on this race and say, run with endurance the race that is set before you. No, He gave us gifts that we can run this our unique race with. Give us adjoining gifts to run with. You see a scripture like 2 Peter 1 verse 3 says, according as His divine power has given us all that pertains to life and godliness. So God gave us, is a free gift. We didn't pay for it. Everyone has this measure of gifts He gave us. It is given. Now, however that it is given, these gifts come in form of talents, in form of, or we generally call them potential, right? And they are in the raw form. It is when we translate these raw gifts that it eventually becomes true capacity. And so, like the illustration we shared earlier on, the fuel is what keeps the vehicle in motion until it arrives at the destination. You look at the vehicle, you look at the tank, I need to top up. And so we have what we call lifelong learning, right? So that's also another essence why we all need to build capacity. It's a journey. So you don't say because I have a very beautiful car, it will service itself for the rest of its usage. No, every single time I'm always topping up. Every week you are topping up. Every virtually, depending on how much mileage you want to cover, you are topping up. That's capacity. And so nobody has built, even if you have gone to a full wall of college, tertiary institutions, you have gotten to the apex with masters, MBAs, doctorate. That's not the end of capacity. The capacity we're talking about here is a lifelong journey. because you need the fuel along the way. Now, have you wondered that some people get incapacitated? You see, they get incapacitated simply because they lack capacity. Incapacitation is just a lack of capacity. And so, incapacitation talks about the fact that somebody is not able to do something as intended. Somebody is unable to walk or do something normally as should be done. And so, they summarize and say, this person is incapacitated. That won't be our own portion. I mean, and that's why this Nike has brought up this episode on how we can actually build capacity. Now, so I share that background so that we can know first that everyone has gifts. We have been gifted, and God gave us this gift. But of course, we wouldn't remain at the gift because the gift is at the raw form. What can be done? Someone said something that talent is talent until it meets skill, so that it can become ability. Look at that. Talent is talent until it meets skill, so that it can become ability. In the same vein, ability also needs capacity, so that it can become capability. So you see the trend. The talent is refined into skill, it becomes an ability. The ability also needs continuous learning capacity, it becomes capability. And so there are a few things I want to just share that will help in building this capacity. We call it sustainable capacity because it's going to meet the needs of present, and it's also going to meet the needs of the future. And so as a young person, you're not just building capacity just because you want to pass an exam. Oh no, that's the lowest of the triangle. We're coming up higher to a point whereby I'm not just learning and building capacity because I want to write an assessment or feel an assessment, an evaluation, an appraisal. No, those days you see some people are preparing, and you see them in the workplace. The only time they are reading is when they are preparing for the annual appraisal, and then because they're going to have interviews, they're going to have and all of that, so they begin to read. That's the only time they are reading. The kind of capacity we're talking about is that kind that is sustainable. So you're not just building capacity for now, you're building capacity for the present and the future. And so what can be done? Number one is this: I must be clear of where I'm driving to. Think about it. The gifts God gave, He gave them so that we can fulfill the mission He has given to us. And there's this illustration I used to cite. You look at a Duracell battery, for example. A Duracell battery has about 1.5 volts of energy. And so, you go to a store to buy a brand new Duracell battery or any other brand. And that battery is like the gifts each one of us has. It has potential energy. The energy has never been used before. It's just in a brand new nylon. Nobody has torn it open before. And for the first time, you bought this set of batteries. But buying the battery, knowing that you have a gift, is not enough. The gift is useless until I know what to use the gift for. And so, if you give that battery to a toddler, for example, that toddler is going to put the battery in his mouth and fiddle with it, right? I mean, that's what he can do. He doesn't know what to do with it. But once I begin to know what is the purpose of this, what is the purpose that this battery is to serve. Some people have found their gift, but the gift is being misused and abused at the same time because the gift is being used in the wrong usage. And so that's why nobody can judge who is successful or not. I don't have the capacity to say A is successful, B is successful. The person who has the capacity to say that is the person, number one, who sent the person here, God. And number two, the person who also knows the mission He sent the person to do. That's the only person who can assess if the person is truly successful. And suddenly, when I put the battery in an alarm clock, all of the 1.5 volts of energy comes alive. Once I put the battery in a wall clock, in a remote control, all of the energy come alive because the battery is in the right purpose. And so it's not enough that yes, God has given us great gifts, but What are you to use them for? Where are you driving to? I must be clear about that. And I hear many young people say, well, Mr. Abraham, thank you. Leave me. I can do it with anything I like. It's my gift. Hey, it's not your gift. It's not your gift. One scripture that comes to mind, most times, and I'm sharing around this, is Psalms chapter 100, verse 3. Scripture says, it is God that has made us, and not we ourselves. See that now? He says, we are His people and the sheep of His pasture. So God made you, not you yourself. And so everything He has given to you, He gave them to you, and He's the one that will help you know what best to use them for. And so I must know. So for example, I found, April 10, 11, and 12 in 2011, I actually went on this search personally myself. Yes, I was doing well in school. I was just about to get out of, my first degree program. I was on a first class. I was doing so well. But I still needed to know. Yes, I found a few of the gifts God had given to me, but I still didn't know what to use them for. And just like every other young person in town, I was thinking, okay, when I'm done from school, okay, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and all of that. But yet I was clueless about what to use the gifts for the few gifts I had found at that time. And and I went on a search. I found a scripture. A friend of mine, were walking to class one day, and he said to me, Abraham, is there more to your life than this? I mean, he was talking about the fact that this is just about what we studied in school. Is there more? And I remember that day I couldn't answer him. For the rest of the day, I was clueless to the question he asked me. And then most times I used to say this: if there is any question you cannot answer, there's any question your friend cannot answer, there's any question your parents cannot answer, who best do you ask that kind of question? You ask God, right? And so because Jeremiah 33 says, I alone know the plans I have for you. I alone. So not even your parents, not even your closest friend, not even your pals. And I went to God in asking. My prayer was simple: is there more to my life than this? Just like the question my friend had asked me. I also saw, the life of Paul before he became Paul, from Saul to being Paul. Something happened to his life. He was clear about where he was going to. Before that time, all he was doing was persecuting Christians. He was actually abusing the gifts God gave to him. If you look at his life, you could sense that this guy had the gift of project management. He had gifts in mobilizing people because they go to persecute people, right? He had gifts in perhaps communication. He had gifts in name it, but he was abusing it, using it for the wrong use. They were giving him money. Of course, you can imagine that for every set of Christians he persecuted, they would give him a check, and I could imagine that they also gave him an insurance. He had benefits. Everything. To the world, he was successful. But again, like I said, only the person who sent us here can judge how successful we are or not. And the day came again, he was going about to abuse people, using his gifts for the wrong use. And he asked the question in Acts chapter 9, verse 6. That question was what opened his destiny up. And after he asked that question, God gave him clarity about where he should now drive to. He said to God, if you look at that scripture, Acts chapter 9, verse 6, he said, Lord, what will you have me do? If you read the preceding chapter, Elijah shone on his face, he fell down, and he said, Lord, what will you have me do? And so many of us, we assume so much. Oh, well, I'm good in computing. Oh, I will be in the field of computing. Oh, I'm good in this. Assumption is not clarity. Assumption is not clarity. He went to God and he asked God, even although he was making abnormal use of his gift, which we call abuse. And he said, and if you read the later part of that chapter, he met with Ananias. God said, I'm calling to preach to the Gentiles and ... Of course, you and I will agree that indeed.
Yes.
You and I will agree that indeed Paul was very successful. Successful even amongst above the 12 disciples that were with Jesus on earth. Amazing. All because he was clear about what to drive, where he was driving to, and he was able to make the best use of his gift. That's number one. The second one is what is like an addendum if number one has been clarified. And the second one is what I call I must refine my field through learning. We said number one is that I must be clear about where I'm driving to. Right. Number two is that I must refine my field through learning. Right. So Yes, I'm driving somewhere and I need
Mhm.
capacity to get me there. However, when you look at the typical, the fuel, it's not the crude oil that is in the vehicle. No, it is the refined version that is in the vehicle. So it could be the premium motor spirit they call PMS, or the automated gas oil that they call diesel, that is actually in the vehicle. It is not a crude form, and so it is the refined fuel that is actually in the vehicle. So although my gifts are the abilities, the raw potential God has given to me, I must refine them and convert them into refined version, right? And so it is not just the gifts that will help us to be successful. It is the refined version of it. And so, this is a scripture common to everyone. Proverbs 18 verse 16. The gift of a man will make room for him. But I want to paraphrase it and add this way. Refining that gift will position him to make more rooms. His gift will make a room. Maybe that's one room. Refining it will position the person to make more rooms. See it that way. More rooms, right? And so at every point in time, one of the things I did, some years back, and every point in time I do it because discovery is a journey, right? As you go, clarity also grows. As you go, clarity grows. And so one of the things I did was an inventory, and this is one of the things I want everybody to also do. Take an inventory of the gifts God has given to you. It's a gift, free gift He gave to everyone. And most times they are expressed in, if you ask yourself these three questions, you can easily find them. Ask yourself, what am I good in? That's number one. What am I good in? Number two, what am I good at? What am I good at? Number three, what am I good with? So the first one is what I'm good in. The second one is what I'm good at. The third one is what I'm good with. And so when you begin to ask yourself these questions, and even sometimes you can even ask people who have known you for so long a time, and most times what they will say to you is not actually maybe like a new thing. It's only a validation of what you already found about yourself. And so it's a form of affirmation. And I found amazing. You can guess what I found. I found many things. I found that, oh yes, I'm good in bringing people out of their comfort zone. That's one of the things I found. I found that I'm good in pushing people to think. The pitfall most times is that people think gifts should be all about entertainment gifts. And so people think gifts should be about singing, dancing, painting, and drawing. But gifts is not, it's beyond that. It's about, you may not have even given it a word before. You may not have given it a sentence. Just describe it in whichever way you can. It's peculiar to you. I found that I'm good in inspiring people with a kind of enthusiastic energy. I found that, I'm good at program design, good at, creating content. I also found that I'm good at breaking things down. I mean, these are things I found about myself. I don't want to bore, you with that, but it's about, when I did this, I found about 20 gifts and still counting. 20 gifts. And so you find that God has given amazing gifts to everyone. Nobody's empty. But
Nobody. None.
Where we come to is that beyond just finding the raw gifts, we must refine them through learning. And the beauty we have today, guess what, Nick? The beauty we have today is that learning is now democratized. And so every single minute, every single hour, you can build capacity. So the common one everybody knows is this: refining through, schooling, formal schooling, formal education. So, but there's a trend we need to correct. So people have been saying recently that schooling is a scam and all of that. So most times, what I've found in my journey is that a person's map of the world is not necessarily your own map of the world. And so if a person had a particular negative outcome, and the person feels to share his negative outcome, that's not your own outcome. It's just like the internet. Some people say the internet is good, some people say the internet is bad. The internet is neutral. It's about who is using it. So schooling will forever remain a veritable source of capacity building is about how you seize the moment. And I often say this, that schooling is for a season. You're not going to be in school for life, although you are going to learn for life. Think about it. You are not going to be in school for life, you are going to learn for life. And so anytime I have an opportunity to be in some form of formal schooling, what I do is that I ask myself, what is the reason for this season? Because once I find the reason, I'm able to put in all of my best in it. So over the years, I found in formal schooling that people don't do well academically, and they don't commit to the rigor of capacity building through schooling, because they hardly can say this is why I'm in school. And so because of that, they approach schooling with a lackadaisical attitude. And of course, it's a rule of thumb, it's a principle. What you give in is what you get out of it. That's it. That's the rule of life. And so every time you have an opportunity, maybe you want to get on an MBA, a master's program, whatever it is, just define the reason for that season of schooling you want to go into. Whether it's going to be for 18 months or it's going to be for 4 years. Once the reason is defined, you find an internal motivation rise from within you that will sustain you through all that season. That's what is needed. I remember there was a time I was on a schooling endeavor, but I was losing passion and I wasn't just getting it very well. And I met some of my mentors here and that. But suddenly, once I just recalibrated why I'm actually doing this in the first place. Once I brought in my internal motivation to it, my passion grew. I could spend more time in it. I could go through the rigor, no matter how difficult it was. That's the first level everybody gets to talk about. It's called formal education, schooling. That's one way you should refine your gifts. And so you look at the array of gifts you have, and you ask yourself, which one of them require formal schooling? Which one of them require formal schooling? And so you take that on. You can look at it again. Which one again can I refine formally? Not all of them will require formal schooling, but some will. Right? And this takes us to the next one. You can also refine through what I call continuous professional development. Like we shared earlier on. That's what we call non-formal education. And this one, you don't have to necessarily be in the four wall of a school. You don't have to necessarily write all forms of assessment. It may not even be a summative assessment. It may just be some form of formative assessment, project-based, assessment, and all of that. And so it could be a workshop you go to. It could be a certification program you enroll in. It could be a seminar you get on. But you see, that's what it is. You are constantly building the capacity. Right? And someone said something humorously recently. I was reading something I think on LinkedIn that imagine you walk into a bookstore, and then of course in a bookstore there are hundreds of books. How do you know which book to pick or which book to get? How you know the book to get is simple. You simply know which one to get by what capacity you want to build. And so most times people build capacity in disarray. And because of that, you can't get the best value from learning when it's not built in the right sequence. Right? So you could begin to work with what I call thematic learning. So I have two things I do. I have a folder on my system where I call it personal growth. Every year I have a folder, like that. So some of them I have a subfolder of webinars, courses, mentorship, and all of that. Or frequent learnings I do, and then I just archive them there. Also, I have a book, where I archive some of my learnings. Most times I prefer to write. Sometimes also you may want to also use maybe some form of cloud, devices. Have some apps on your notes. You can use to take some notes or Google document, whichever way it is. But the thing is, you can actually measure your growth. So you can say, well, this month I want to learn about. I want to build my capacity about communication, and so 70% of your intentional learning will be about communication. It's not just about learning anything that comes your way. So you are going into workshops, you are signing up for seminars, you are signing up for master classes around that subject matter of your capacity that you want to build in. That way you can measure your growth. So you finish a year through, you can see that, I've grown in communication, I've grown in presentation, I've grown in strategy development, I've grown in this, and it is amazing, right? But one thing I like to say here is this. People pay so much emphasis to technical skills, which is good. But in today's 21st century, more attention should be placed into what I call life skills. I'm a passionate, thought leader on life skills. And it's simple.
Mm.
Anybody can have the technical skill you have. I mean, it's not any difficult thing. So you're good in engineering, you have a bachelor in engineering, anybody can have that. Yeah. But you see, what differentiates A from B is where the life skills come in. So this is how you do your own engineering. This is how you do your own marketing. This is how you do your own strategy. And so you find that although we have the same technical skills, our life skills, the capacity we have built in our life skills varies. And so you know more about, ethics, you know more about relational intelligence, you know more about executive intelligence, executive presence, you know more about communication, you know about presentation, you know about virtual meetings, you know more about remote work, you know more about, name it. There are tons of life skills. I developed a curriculum about 26 life skills for young adults. There are tons of them. You know about goal setting, you know about, name it. Those life skills are going to be the differentiator between every other person that has the same technical skill like you do. And so in your quest to building continuous professional development, also pay attention to the life skills. They are actually, that's what they call life skills. Some people call them soft skills. Nothing is soft about them. It is what life is made about. So they are life skills. They are the core skills that drive the technical skills. And it's simple, like I always say, the mindset is what drives the skill set. You may have the skill set about the technical skills, but eventually it's the mindset about your life skills that will drive your skill sets. So actually, let me just recap. I shared about refining through formal, education. That's schooling, right? Some persons may have to build their capacity by going back to formal schooling, getting on some, adjunct part-time schooling. I shared also about number 2, building capacity through continuous professional development, right? Non-formal education. And I was just about citing an example of Joseph in scripture. Yeah, this was a man gifted and all of that, but at that time he was in prison. And this guy, I could sense that he had the life skills about, for example, executive presence and all of that. Because if you read Genesis 41 verse 14, when Pharaoh sent for Joseph and they brought him out from the prison, guess what he did? He shaved.
Went to shave.
His clothes before appearing before Pharaoh. Right? So although your gifts will make room for you, but for you to stand before kings in that room, you need more skills, more life skills. Right? So, like you said, let me just move to the last one. And last one is refining through mentorship. This is what I call informal education, mentorship. And a quick case in point about that is Eli and Samuel in scriptures. And so Samuel was beginning to grow. Picture Samuel as the youth and Eli as the mentor. And because many young people feel today, I can do it on my own. I don't need any other person.
At all.
There's also still the place of mentorship. We learn a whole lot by observation, by mentorship, and all of that. So Samuel was beginning to grow. He was beginning to do well in his career. God was beginning to speak to him, but he needed Eli to mentor him. It didn't matter if Eli was well spoken, whether he was digitally savvy like perhaps he was, like many young people would say. And the time came, God spoke to Eli, but he couldn't, to Samuel, but he couldn't recognize it. Guess what he did? He went to his mentor, so to say. And he said, well, I've been having this. Someone has been speaking to me, but I actually don't know what to do. Eli, because of the mileage of experience he has had, said to him, oh, that's God speaking to you. When you hear the voice again, say, speak, Lord, for I'm listening. And so the mentor told him what to do. The mentor guided him on the path to take. And then the rest, as they say, is history. Mentorship is still a vital role to play. Actually, that's also one life skill, learning how to build mentors and benefit from mentorship. Now, also in informal education, you can also refine your gifts through friendship. This is one, subtly to say, one that we rarely pay attention to. And today, you just keep friends, any kind of friend, and it's simple. Your friend literally determines your end. If I'm driving to point A, it will be advisable to keep friends who are also perhaps driving to a similar place as I'm going. And so,
very true.
It's not about, we need to stop moving with corners so they don't put our destiny in a corner. And It's a rule of thumb. That's one of my
I like
highest
that.
advice. That's one of my highest advice to young people. A person is beginning to be successful in quotes, moving, realizing a God-given destiny, but he can scuttle that destiny by a wrong friend. The case in point is, Samuel. I mean, in 2 Samuel 13, Amnon. Amnon who had a friend, Jonadab, and you know the story. Eventually, the guy led him to, rape, his half brother, sister, and eventually he died. Right? And so, friends. Your friend is meant to mirror your aim. If the person has no identity about your aim, then you should not be my close friend. You can be my acquaintance. Good morning. Yeah, I can stop there. But if you must be one of my close friends, you must mirror my end. So if you show me your friends, I should be able to show you your end. That's about friendship. And the last one I want to eat on is refining through the media. And this is key because in our own generation, we are born into the digital age. We are digital natives and all of that. And so even on the social media age, who you follow determines what follows you. Right? I mean, and it's simple. That's the way the algorithm is built. That's the way the algorithm is built. You see that a person is the people you follow are the people you see on your timeline. It's as simple as that. And so when you're scrolling your timeline, if you are not learning through your timeline, there's something is wrong. If you are not learning through your timeline, then go back and follow the people that you are learning wrongly from. Because without knowing, consciously or unconsciously, you are picking up some things. And so you have to be intentional even on the use of the media. When I look at my timeline, the time I have to, I learn. When I see someone I'm not learning from and it's actually going to be a weed in my learning process, simply unfollow. Simply move to general. I mean, there are many ways you can do that in today's world. And you see, I've come also to understand, Nike, that not everything is taught. Some things are caught. Right? Not everything is taught. Some things are caught. That means I can refine my gifts through what I call thinking. And that's what I call inspirational education. Inspirational. For God said we have the mind of Christ. If I have the mind of Christ, I can engage my thinking. You see, we call it revelation. A time comes whereby when I begin to build capacity, learning from different sources, and all of that, I can come to a point whereby I can construct my own learning. And I don't have to, I may not have even read it from anywhere. It just drops. That's inspiration. You have the Spirit of God in you, and it can birth amazing thoughts, amazing ideas in you. That's inspiration. Now, I'm going to close with these thoughts. One of my mentors, was sharing this, and I felt it's just applicable here. The ability to learn is a gift. Everybody has it. But the capacity to learn is a skill. Because you must convert your gift into skill. But not everybody develops it. Now, guess what? The willingness to learn is a choice. Only a few people make that choice. And so the summation of everything we're sharing today is that you still have a choice to choose whether to be capacity or not. And guess what? If talent refuses to work hard work will beat talent hands down. And so there's a backup and a balance to the scripture that says, "Seest a man diligent in his work, he will stand before kings." So even if your gift makes room for you, the kind of people you stand with in that room, will be dependent with how much are you diligent in the capacity you are building. You may stand before kings, but if you are to stand before kings, you might have been diligent. I used to say this humorously that when you sleep tonight and you wake up tomorrow, nothing would have changed necessarily about you. The things you have learned yesterday are the things you will wake up with. So if you get a mail today and saying, "Oh, we wanted to come to the State House," or you're having a meeting with the president, this, that, and that, nothing will change from the time you get that mail to the time you will meet the president or whoever it is. It is the capacity you have built hitherto that will speak for you. And so we must choose to be diligent to build the capacity. This is amazing.
Wow.
I mean, thank you so much, Nika, for this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Owoseni. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This generation, we're blessed to have you, sir, in our generation. And I tell you that your works will speak. It will speak in places that matters. In the name of Jesus.
You have gained insights and strategies to live life purposefully. Now is the time to take actions in the direction of your learnings. For more products, bookings, and inquiries, please visit www.abrahamowoseni.com.